And so, yeah, we'll go ahead and kick it off. So, really, really, really excited to be here. And thank you all for joining. Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to another edition of the Right Way webinar series. My name is Brandon Mitchell, and we're really excited about you joining us today to talk about a really important topic right now, and that's enabling students to apply their AI, machine learning, Gen AI, and learning on across campus jobs, right? We're talking about how we can really create meaningful pathways between AI learning and real world experience so that the students and alumni have great tools and technologies to put on their resume. And so to go ahead and kick it off, we're going to just start with some just brief introductions. And so I want to introduce Meenakshi Baker. She is the Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives and Planning at NYU IT. She has an extensive experience leading initiatives across higher education with an expertise in strategic planning, data governance, organizational development, and technology-enabled transformation. Throughout her career, she has focused on creative, innovative programs that support student success, workforce readiness, and experiential learning. She holds a master's degree from NYU and the Indian Institute of Technology. She is passionate about helping institutions create meaningful opportunities for students to apply AI, machine learning, and generative AI skills in a real world setting. So basically, that means she knows what she's talking about. So we're really excited about that. And we're going to get into our presentation and fireside chat in a little bit. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brandon Mitchell. I am the co-founder and CEO of WriteSea. WriteSea is the company behind today's webinar. We are an AI career services company that's truly focused on helping all of your students and alumni land jobs faster and scale professional branding across your campuses. But I'm a technology entrepreneur, executive coach, and investor, fully focused on revolutionizing the way that we think about career services as we're in a really pivotal moment in the future of work. And so my personal background is that I started my career off at PwC as a technology consultant in Manhattan, advising Fortune 500 companies on their most complex technology strategies, whether that be Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley, KKR, EY, et cetera. And so I have a lot of expertise that spans across software as a service, executive leadership, and public speaking. I've been featured in Forbes, Cheddar, Yahoo Finance, Earn Your Leisure, Black Wealth Renaissance, and I'm really passionate about career development, financial literacy, generational wealth, and all those topics. And I hold 3 degrees from SUNY Plattsburgh in finance, economics, and MIS. So we are really excited to be here. And so, in typical Right C fashion, before we jump into today's discussion, what we typically like to do is just start with some just polls. We want to get a chance to understand who's here. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the first poll so we get to understand who is in here. And so the first question is, who are you? So we'll give some time to answer the question. Are you a faculty member that's focused on teaching in general courses? Are you a career services professional? We have a lot of those that we service. Are you an employer? A dean, a provost, a president, or are you someone else? So we'll give another 10 seconds for everybody to answer. Okay, so we have a lot of the answers come in. So a lot of career services, university administrators. I'll give about another 5 seconds for this one, and then we're going to end the poll and show the results. So we see who's on the call today. All right, we got 85% participated. So if you're hearing me right now, please answer the poll so we can share this out. And I'm going to close it in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we're going to share the results with everyone. And so it seems like we have a lot of career services, faculty in the room, university administrators. Amazing. Okay, awesome. Well, let's go to the second question, right? How confident are you that your institution is effectively tracking career services or student career readiness today? Are you very confident? Or somewhat confident? We're not tracking this at all, or you're not confident at all. So we'll give a little bit for you all to kind of answer this because this is a hot topic today around career readiness. There's so many different pressures across higher education to track this. So I'll give another 5 seconds and then we'll end this poll. So, okay, somewhat confident, a lot of someone, and a lot of not confident. I mean, it really looks like it's evenly split. So we're going to end this poll, share the results out so you all can see where your fellow colleagues are. So very small or very confident. And so it seems like we need some improvements here. So awesome. Okay, great. Let's go to the next question is, which of these risks are your institutions most concerned about, right? Whether it's low job placement, we see a lot of impacts of AI on hiring. We see, some companies and some industries are hiring more, some are hiring less. So just curious, right? Like which of these risks are you all most concerned about? So I'll keep that up for another 10 seconds. This is really interesting data, right? Um, wow, a lot of all of the aboves. A lot of all the aboves. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close that one in a second. So share those results out for everyone. So we're seeing, over 60% is negative outcomes, all of the above. So it's definitely some things to think about as we think about, jobs and career readiness and AI. So we got a few more. Okay. Let's talk about which best describes your current career readiness tracking strategy, right? Whether you use multiple tools, or you just staff members, you have some automated with technology, or maybe you're just not tracking at all. I'm so really curious to see where our group is today. Okay, wow. Multiple tools, data's fragmented. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one in a second. Okay, so we're getting good participation. I love it. Okay, so that you all can see, yeah, I'd say about 60% is using multiple tools and also relying on career services staff, but seems like we're seeing some start to move into trying to figure this out. We know that this is a very hot topic. The next question is, let's talk about AI, right? How open is your institution to leveraging AI in career services? Maybe you already have done, maybe you're thinking about it, maybe you're looking to figure this out next year. Maybe you don't like AI at all. That's okay as well. Let's see where everyone is at. So, okay, keep this open for another 10 seconds. Wow, this is such interesting data. A lot are already using it. Okay, and a decent bit are interested but don't know where to start, which is a good place to be. Curious, right? I say intellectually curious about it. Okay, close this poll. Let's share the results out so we can see what our colleagues are saying. Okay, so almost half are already using some AI. You think about, alumni mentorship, job matching, resumes, mock interviews. There's so many different career exploration, all of the things. So that's awesome. And we're almost done with our polls. We're going to get into the amazing stuff today. Okay, one more question. Okay. What is your top priority, right? 'Cause, as we think about moving into the next fiscal year, July 1st, a lot of things might change, a lot of things might stay the same, but what is your top priority? Is it increasing student engagement, tracking data, helping alumni who might have graduated this past May that just need some more help, right? Or maybe it's, hey, we don't have enough employers engaged in our engineering department, our computer science, our arts and humanities, right? Like what are the top? Wow, this one's gonna be interesting. Close this one down in a second. All right. This one is interesting. So it seems that increasing student engagement is the top priority. We understand that every institution is different, whether you have commuter students, transfer students, master students, PhD students, HBCU students. Like there's so many different instances, but it seems like increasing student engagement is the top priority. So that's awesome. Okay. And I promise this last one is an easy one. Uh, what is your favorite ice cream color? Flavor, not color, flavor. Is it vanilla chocolate? I'm more of a mint chocolate chip kind of guy. Uh, Meenakshi, what's your favorite? Are you more of like a Rocky Road or a strawberry cheesecake?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Keeping it simple. Chocolate.
Keep it simple. I love it. Keeping it simple. We'll keep this open for another 5 seconds. It's always good to know. Wow, other. So yeah, I gotta redo these poll questions because it seems like the fan favorites are not being represented. So actually drop in the chat. Drop in the chat right now. What is your favorite ice cream flavor? Drop in the chat. That's actually what I'm really interested in figure out. AI and ice cream. I think it'd be a great combo. Okay, so what do we got in the chat? What do we got in the chat? Okay. Okay. Oreo. Ooh, pistachio. Ooh, pistachio is phenomenal. I love me some pistachio ice cream. Okay. Chocolate chip, cookie dough, coffee ice cream. Okay. Okay. I love it. I love it. Okay. So now we got everybody thinking about ice cream. Hopefully we can focus on AI. So to really set the stage before we jump into today's fireside chat and presentation, one of the most significant shifts happening across higher education right now is the rapid growth of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and generative AI. And so students are kind of like learning these technologies at an unprecedented pace, whether it's through coursework, certifications, independent projects, and just their own exploration of emerging tools, right? But at the same time, institutions are asking an important question. How do we move beyond teaching students about AI and start to think about how do we create opportunities for them to apply these skills across meaningful real world experience and settings? Because the knowledge is important, experience is what builds confidence, and experience is also what helps students develop professional skills, right? Solve complex problems and prepare for a workforce where AI literacy is becoming an increasingly valuable topic. And when we think about campus employment, it really presents a very unique opportunity to bridge all those gaps. And so today we're super excited to be joined by Meenakshi Baker, who's obviously leading a lot of these initiatives and has a lot to say. So thank you so much for being here. And I know I introduced you, but if you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit more about your role at NYU before we get started, please feel free to do that. And then we'll transition into your presentation.
Thank you, Brandon. Hello, everybody. I hope you are having a swell time. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about what is very close to my heart, which is about developing skilling opportunities, for the students who come and study in our higher educational institutions. So I have been a professional for 37 years, and I started my career that has taken me through international banking operations, then hotel and airline technology delivery, then medical relief organizations, program management in the field, and then finally NYU. I have been in NYU for 24 years, and going through, these different industries, different continents, and kind of learning on the job and really, really aspiring to kind of getting to the next level and so on. I always had this like one constant belief, running through me that focus should always be on developing people's skills, people's abilities. So more on that than focusing on how people are using the tools, what tools to provide and so on and so forth. So that has been always my thought, and I really believe in it. So as a result, working through all these different jobs and so on, I also had three core things that I always connected together. So the first was, how do I operate, the ability to operate at this cross section, of institutional strategy, technology, development, deployment, and so on, and also keeping the stakeholders' trust. So those are kind of my key principles that I always focus on. Now, in the past 20 years, 24 years in NYU, I have had the chance to put this philosophy into practice and learning from it. So I have worked on, designing, development of systems, very complex, space management and construction project management systems that have been in use for over 10 years now in, New York University. I have also currently doing design and development of what we call a space assignment tool for research spaces. Our research arena in NYU is very complex. We do research, in the sciences, we do research in math, we do research in engineering, we do research in education, research in, you name it, and we do it. So trying to figure out how to document that space usage for research and doing very consistent calculations for that usage is a pretty big challenge. And I'm very happy, given my experience in NYU, I was very well positioned to actually take on that challenge and collaborate across the university and create a solution that will, provide value for the university. Second, I have, in the past 3 years, I have been part of the AI movement. So now, since February 2026, I am part of the AI Center for Excellence, which has been created in NYU IT, which is a central administrative unit. And within that unit, we have a division like research and instruction technology. So we are part of it, and I am the inaugural member of that AI COE. And the reason I was able to become the inaugural member is because I brought in my design development skill set and my skill development skill set. And together, I was able to do very good and very deep work for various areas in the university, creating either AI chatbots or AI tutors or specific data pipelines to solve very specific problems. Because my focus has always been about value actualization. So I don't, and you'll see I don't talk too much, but when I talk, I always talk for the best effect because, words are important and words are expensive. And then translating it into work, that is even more important and more expensive. So that's the reason, that has been my goal. I have been very thankful for NYU throughout my career that I have been able to, I was given an opportunity to solve complex problems and at the same time enable, teams, people and teams to actually develop complex skills. So that way, those systems are not dependent on one person. There is a continuous stream of people who can maintain, develop, and constantly update the system because the institution, the core problem we are trying to solve is that the institution has to stay up in terms of all the changes coming, our way as technology changes, processes change, politics changes, and so on and so forth. So if it is okay, Brandon, now I'm going to share my screen
Yeah, absolutely.
and I'm going to go over some slides.
Absolutely. And as you're pulling that up, I think what you're saying is so important. And it's some common themes that even we see when I talk to, IT teams and provosts and presidents and career services that we're seeing increasingly, these kind of centers of excellence emerge across AI. We're seeing, AI task force being created at the presidential level to really think about how we think about AI in many different areas, right? And I'm sure when there were the other technological booms like mobile technology or web technology, this cycle is kind of just repeating itself, right? Because at the end of the day, technology is only going to keep increasing, but we're seeing just more investment in time and energy, and so those are kind of themes that everybody's on this call can think back, like is my institution thinking about a center of excellence or about task force and things like that. And so I think that's a really key theme that I wanted to highlight that I heard that you said because that's we're seeing that more and more. So yeah, please go ahead and jump into your slides.
Thank you, Brandon. So let me just make sure I share. 1 second. Do I have the share option? Oh yeah, I did. Thank you. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, thank you. So like Brandon said, it is really like how do we continue the skill development conversation because it's not just skill development that we have started to do just in the AI era. In the AI era, it becomes extremely, extremely more important because AI is, if everything is transparent, you get the best value. If it is not transparent, then we get those newspaper articles about users using $275,000 in 1 month and getting onto the news, not because it's a good thing, but it is actually a bad thing for the institution. So again, for the skill building, people, process, technology, they are very important. So that philosophy has not gone away. Good. So now let us go to what is the first thing that we are trying to address. So like Brandon said, the growing demand for students to gain hands-on AI experience. So in the next slide, I will go over why this is of paramount importance. So if you look at and my focus is higher education. So right now, higher education is actually facing a converging workforce and revenue challenge. So the first pressure is student employability. Good. What are students really coming to these very premium higher educational institutions for? They are increasingly seeking workplace readiness, technical and business professional work experience, not at entry level because a lot of the entry repetitive tasks will be taken over by AI when AI is implemented well for institutions. So it is several levels over the entry level, especially if you're a graduate computer science engineering student or you're a graduate, like master's in mathematics or other areas. Good. The students are also wanting to have portfolio-based learning because if you don't create portfolios, recruiters are not going to talk to you. And even the recruitment, the first process, it's all AI driven. So you need to meet certain criteria even before your resume is actually looked into by a human. So these portfolios become very important as a result. And then they want faster entry into targeted employment. We all know about student debts. We all know the hardships today's students have to face compared to, say, 30, 40 years ago when there was a lot of programs, to support learning, especially higher education. So as a result, there is a significant execution gap that is existing between learning content and validating use of the content in an appropriate, consistent professional employment structure for a significant number of students for a significant period of time to make a difference. It doesn't count that I had a swell internship for a semester. What happens for the rest of my 2 years of master's program? What happens for the rest of my 4 years of undergrad program? What happens when I am planning to work in a doctoral program and so on? So we have to keep that in mind. Consistency and long term are really the key words here and the key factors that drive the success. So what are the challenges for students? They know AI tools mostly through personal usage. They do not have specific domain knowledge, so it makes it difficult to land business-facing AI jobs. They do not have operational AI design and development experience consistently over a period of time that makes it difficult to land targeted AI design and development jobs. What is the enrollment ROI? And I'm going to come back to the workforce development. Let's talk about the enrollment ROI because that is the pain that most higher educational institutions are experiencing, with the AI revolution. The enrollment growth is flattening. The students and their families are consistently focusing more on employability of degrees. While deciding where to apply for generational education for their families, they are focusing on that, which higher education institution has programs that actually increases the employability of my children. So as a result, what is the concern for parents? Concern for parents is generational education in the same school is strongly supported when their oldest child successfully gains targeted employment close to graduation. And that is really what is going to be like, like if we address this concern for the parents, address the concern, challenges for the students across the board, life is going to get much easier for everybody. But if we don't, all we will have is a lot of noise and a lot of pain. So now we come to the other two areas, which is the existing workforce development and the industry demand for AI. The existing workforce, if you see, the demand is rising for AI literacy and enablement, digital modernization, data availability and optimization for AI use. As a result, mapping of use cases to quality working prototypes with ability to scale and fit for operationalization is quite a mouthful, I'm sorry. Using AI-ready data is limited right now due to this critical skill gap and development bandwidth and limited resources outside operational budgets in most institutions. Good. Now let's see what is the industry demand for AI. the industry, like I said, the entry levels, AI is going to take over because the rules are set. It's very data driven. It is very 1 plus 1 is either 2 or 1 plus 1 is 12, 11. So it's very focused. You cannot have multiple combinations and permutations. So those kind of jobs will be the ones that will be eaten by AI in the first pass. So as a result, we need to provide like pre-skilled talent with real delivery experience in a professional work environment, whether these are related to business jobs or these are related to technical jobs. The second part is most students are trying to enter the workforce with degree only and generic campus employment. This raises the bar for the industry because the industry has to meet the requirements of their shareholders. The industry has to meet a lot of different things for them to stay viable, all the businesses within the industry. Now, at the same time, if they are putting a lot of effort to actually train the new hires before they actually become very productive and useful and understand strategy and kind of move that process for the industry, it is not going to be that much of an effort the industry will want to put in the new hires. They will be focused on who has done the work, who knows how to climb the ladder, and those are the only people that will get focused on. So if the higher educational institutions do not create that pipeline and then the industry connects to that pipeline, there is a serious fracture in between those relationships. Then the final part is, some students, so we may say, okay, higher institutions have capstones, there are internships, there are trainings, there are in the classroom learning and so on. None of these actually provide and solve that gap, fit that gap of actual skills development, both business and technical, in a professional work environment using real world, trying to solve real world problems. And after solving those problems, those solutions are operationalized and used. So as a result, these sustained and continuous upskilling programs increase reliable quality and productivity, which can translate into increased employability, specifically in emerging technologies, because those are the hardest places that you can actually go in and make a difference. Then Brandon, should I continue? Thank you. So now the second part is what are those emerging opportunities, for applying AI, ML, and GenAI skills through student employment. So what I have here is what I have observed. I am always willing to learn and I'm always willing to get feedback because things can stay small, but they also have the way to get expanded. But at the same time, we have to see that balance. If we do a lot of horizontal expansion, then the vertical skills development becomes much smaller. So we have to do that balance between the horizontal and the vertical. So as a result, I wrote some of the things that happen in the current capstone experience. The capstone experience is really a very good experience for students because they can work independently on a pretty complex subject for a full semester and they learn a lot out of that. Good. But the AI skilling capstone experience is a little bit different because this work will be focused on institutional projects. The capstone is not limited to one semester. So as a result, there is structured mentoring, there is milestone reviews and stakeholder engagement as the capstoners are trying to kind of work through, the project and they are kind of seeing how their growth is happening at the same time the benefit for the stakeholders who have given the project, for them to work on. Now, on the right-hand side, I kind of put in how that whole process works. So in my program, the first people who join the program are the capstoners. So we always encourage our students to do 2 capstone projects with us. It can be the same project going across 2 semesters, or it can be different projects in different semesters. After that, if they do very well and we have the budget to fund, what we do is we hire them as paid student workers. So they can be AI developers, they can be full stack developers, they can be UI UX, they can be business analysts, they can be data analysts, and so on and so forth. Good. Now, for the last 3 years, as I have been running this AI skilling program, our students do not want to leave us. They actually do so right now I am only focused on the master's program. So they actually work with us for the full 2 years. The reason is, like I said, it is a skills progression. So there is no break in the learning, and there is constant progression. So that's the reason, we have had pretty good, like we don't have a loyalty program, but we have very loyal team members. And then, right now we have focused on STEM OPT because we know all the things happening in the wider world. International students are facing a lot of hardship. But as we are going into the new semesters, if funding is available, we actually will be adding, more opportunities for anybody who is willing after they have graduated to continue work with us. So because we are focused on the new alumni growth, it doesn't matter whether you are local students or international students, every student needs that opportunity to understand how to go from, baseline 1 to say baseline 3, because baseline 3 is what it will get you a job, your targeted job. Baseline 1 is not going to get you your targeted job. Good. And then out of this, either if opportunities open up in the institution, these new alumni can become full-time employees, or they can go in the industry and work because they are getting industrial experience, specific domain level experience. Good. This is how kind of we do our allocation. So depending on budget, these things change. But currently, starting fall 2026, we will have 15 capstoners. So they get credits for working with us. So we do not pay them, but their school credits. Instead of sitting in a classroom and learning, they come here and work. Then we have about 5 to 6 student workers, depending on the funding, and 2 to 3 STEM OPT. Good. So this constantly changes. If we get funding, the numbers increase, or they kind of stay within that 15-20% range. How am I doing with time, Brandon?
You're doing good. We got about another 7 minutes, and then we're going to transition into some Q&A and other things.
Thank you. So
this is phenomenal, by the way.
Thank you. So I have a few more slides if it's okay, and please give me like some indication if I'm running over time. Yeah. Thank you. So the next thing we want to do is, see, you need to know how to start these conversations. Either you are already working through programs like this, or and you need more support, or you want to kind of start it, in your institution. So how would you go about doing it? So the first thing is, like, I put in these 5 small credible steps because in my experience, what I have learned that to start the conversation, you cannot say, oh, I'm going to build a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom house with a nice lawn and a nice garden and a nice this. Please give me the money. Because every institution is challenged. They have to keep the lights on. They have to think about what they need to plan for in the future for growth. They have to keep their shareholders, their board of trustees happy. So there's a lot of things that they have to take into account. So every new idea, we may think that we have done everything A to Z, our prep and everything, and now all we have to do is talk about it and people are going to just jump in. That's not what my experience has been. So as a result, what I say is make it work as a sequence, not a campaign. Good. Small, credible steps. So that way you are able to build your case. Because I will tell you, my husband, who is from here and I am from India, he always tells me, Meenakshi, we have good institutions in America. Please trust them. And I have made that my job in the last 28 years to actually understand how to trust in systems and institutions. So I will tell you, I have been pretty successful because I always focused on small, credible steps. Good. What you do, once you start working, you start knowing your institution. Good. So you find the willing, not the whole campus. Because there will, so for me, in my part, what I did was I went talk to students. I was an administrator. I have always been an administrator, but the 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 school runs because of students and faculty. We just enable, the learning, the teaching, and everything else. Good. So nobody stopped me. I went and talked to students. I went and talked to faculty. Tried to understand what their problems are. And guess what? A few students, few faculty from day one. I started NYU in 2002. From day one, they started working with me. They want to solve a problem. They made me as part of their team, and together we started working through problems. So what does that do? You work with the Quran faculty, the arts and sciences faculty know about it. You get straight on a recommendation. You work with Quran students, tandem students know about it. You straight on, more students are coming your way. So I use the capstone to its fullest limit, and I worked with faculty to understand their problems and then starting how we can solve those problems. As I started, wireframings and POCs and, pilots, that reputation grew because then the reputation was about when we go to her, it is not about she will give us one size and we have to fit, like we have to fit a circle in a square box. It is about somebody is going to really hear what your problem is and really trying to figure out within the constraints of the institution what is the best way to solve the problem and help you solve that problem. So if you have that mindset, nothing will stand in your way because you will be taking small, credible steps and you will be creating large footprints out of those small, credible steps. Good. You should be able to name the obvious wins. Same way I explained, you should be using familiar language. So don't put in a lot of jargon, don't put in a lot of abbreviations. So, for instance, skill building career readiness, everybody understands. Automation, everybody's blood pressure goes up. Good. So that's the reason you want to make sure that your audience always stays curious. Good. Then, once you, like for instance, the first 2 years, I didn't know a lot about NYU because I was new and I was not a faculty, I was not a student. But within 2 years, I kind of knew, like what is kind of the organization structure because there is good information available in the institution's websites. And then trying to figure out how things connect. So it is also important that once you take those small credible steps, you start looping in the right offices early. So most likely, the career services, IT, finance, HR, academic and student affairs. And it's not that you need to talk to all of them all at once. But whenever the opportunity arises, you should be able to talk to them. Good. Because if you bring them in from the start, then this is becomes real useful collaboration. This is not a one person trying to raise a flag. Good. So that's the reason you want to do that. And then, like I said, pilot small, document everything because when people see that quality, everyone actually wants to come and work with you to make this dream a reality. Good. How am I doing on time, Brandon?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really great place to end for today, at least on just the presentation, and we'll move into some Q&A and I have a few questions. One, this is incredible, just even for me hearing this. I just learned a lot over the last, 25, 30 minutes. But as someone who also, did a campus job, I worked in the library, right? There's students that work in dining, that work at the front desk. There's students that work in career services. There's students that work in the advancement office calling alumni for donations. I think the biggest theme that I heard is like, how do we start to rethink those job descriptions? How do we start to think about rethinking capstones to include AI skills? And what I'm hearing is that like the pace needs to pick up, right? Because if not, our students are going to get left behind. And so My quick question as we do a little bit of Q&A and then we'll go into questions. And if anybody on this webinar has questions, please put them into the Q&A box so Meenakshi can address those. But my question is, as we think about practical takeaways, right? Are there any job titles that you think are easy enough when you think about campus jobs that everybody should start to think, maybe take a look at to think about how we can do this, or should it start with faculty conversations first?
A very good point, Brandon. See, every institution has its own culture,
Hmm.
every institution has its own history, and every institution has a plan for its current and future. Good.
Hmm.
So the best thing, like I said, faculty and students, they are the core components
Mm.
for an higher education institution. So the best conversations will start happening is faculty and students. So students have campus jobs. How do they feel about it? Which ones they want? Like what will be their path? If they are going to get that targeted,
Right.
job, like once they graduate. So I think those conversations have to happen. Not like I said at the horizontal level. It has to go vertical.
Got it.
So, for instance, if you have, you should have a good data repository of where students were. First year, second years, third years, fourth years, undergrad, first year, second years, grad. That data should be readily available and easily accessible. Good. Then the second part is that shows you trends, whether the student is coming back to a job, you know, whether the students are changing. When they change, how do they progress, and so on and so forth. So those insights you need to have. Again, those insights should be readily available. And then getting faculty feedback, how interested the students are in the classroom, what they like to learn most, because they are the closest to the students and their feedback matters a lot. Good. So again, not so much horizontal, but vertical is what
Yeah.
you want. Good.
Yeah. And following on that, I think that you're doing an excellent job at this. You clearly have a passion for this. A lot of times I think you think about administrators and faculty, it's like I'm already overloaded with my day-to-day job, right? Like this seems like another job that I may or may not be getting paid for, which is, potentially an honest concern. Is there a specific person in an institution that you think should be thinking about this on a daily basis? Is this HR? Is this administrators? Is this career services? Because I could see that concern pop up like this is phenomenal, but this is another job, although we do want to help the students and it should happen. So I guess it's like the first question is who really should be focusing in on this? And then how do you measure success?
Good point. So you are right. I'll tell you this. I usually have anywhere from 12 to 16-hour days. That's my work day. Good.
Wow.
And during that time, I spend at least 20% of the time interacting with students. Why? Because I brought students into my work processes. Good. I made a very conscious decision very early on that I was not, I have held several titles. I was like a CIO for facilities and, construction management. I was a director here, a manager there, this, there, and that there. Good. But what my focus has always been like that pipeline. How do I create the pipeline so that way when people leave, my blood pressure is not going up. Like who is going to do the task that I already have operational? When people leave, my blood pressure is not going up, whether I have the skills in the team. Good. So this is like you said, this is a personal interest. So
Mhm.
you have very good administrators in the universities, in the higher ed, who really want this. So I think between all the central administrative units, the provost, the president's office, if these administrators are given that support, the same way I got support. See, I have gotten very good institutional support because I
Mhm.
could prove with the work how valuable the student input and output is and how they kind of connect back to the job market pretty well.
Mm.
So as administrators, we are good data keepers. We are good into creating data insights. So all we will have to do is look into our portfolio and figuring out where we create that pipeline for the student. And if we do that, I am very sure our leadership will pay attention because, like I said, faculty, students, those are the critical ingredients for a higher educational institution to be successful.
No, that is a phenomenal point. That's a phenomenal point. And that's what I was thinking. And I could see how that then impacts. You start looking at, this could then potentially impact how fast students land jobs, how career ready they are, the quality of their experience. You think about CSAT surveys, all of the different things this work increases. I think the key is just like, how do we do it? We scale it, we continue to get buy-in. So maybe there's an office of AI skilling created potentially. Who knows? And so I think that those are just so many different instances that can happen from the great work that you're doing. So as I transition, I want everyone. Again, if you have any questions for Meenakshi as we kind of start to wrap up a little bit, please put them into the QA box so that we can start to answer those questions. We have over 40 people still on the webinar, so I love that. So I'm sure you might have some questions. Please put them into the QA box so that we can get them addressed. And in the meantime, I'm going to take just a few minutes to talk a little bit about our newsletter, about WriteSea really quickly as we kind of think about wrapping up and all that. Oh, Meenakshi, go ahead.
Brandon, is it possible to open the survey also, the survey that I had put into the presentation? So if
Oh,
anybody is interested, I would like to see the results of that survey.
yes, yes, yes. We will get to that as well. We'll get to that as
Thank
well.
you.
So
Thank you.
really quickly, just 2 seconds before we move into the Q&A and into the survey. So, like I mentioned before, I think a lot of what we talk about today kind of ties into a little bit of what we do at WriteSea. We help with scaling career readiness at scale, right? You think about resume reviews and mock interviews and all the things that tie into whether it's a campus job, whether them getting their first full-time job. Um, and the key is to scale, right? Because, a lot of times we're understaffed. We might have one person for every 2 or 3 thousand students. And so thinking about how we broaden and scale the office is kind of what we do. We're big sponsors and supporters of industry conferences like NACE, which I was at last week in Denver, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And we also do things like AI headshots, right? You upload 10 selfies, you choose your style, you get LinkedIn ready headshots without ever having to step inside of a booth. So you think about using AI and scaling, whether it's even, we have a solution that calls employers, sorry, not students, to help them track outcomes. So if you're interested in a little bit about how we could potentially help with some of this stuff, just feel free to scan this QR code or go to our website because we always want to just talk a little bit about what we do. Lastly, if you are not on our newsletter, please, please, please join our newsletter. It is phenomenal. We have over 20,000 higher education leaders from career services, IT, administrators, provosts. We talk about really important topics on a weekly basis that I would highly recommend that you all subscribe to. It's a free newsletter, and you get really good insights that I would highly recommend you all there. And if you go to the website, you can sign up as well. But if you scan that QR code, you will get pushed to our newsletter. And then here's just a little bit of our contact information so that you can stay in touch with us. We do these webinars on a monthly basis, really to provide high quality thought leadership into the industry because we know that there's not a lot of opportunity sometimes to get this high level guidance. So we're going to continuously be a leader in the space in terms of our webinar series. And then Meenakshi, if you want to share your screen to pull up your survey, please go ahead and do that if it's a link or if it's a QR code. So feel
It's
free.
not the QR code. I can share the link. Is that okay?
Yeah, if you drop the link into the chat where it says with everyone, then everyone can take that survey. So please do that. And then yeah. And then if anyone has any questions, we would love to spend the last few minutes on today's webinar answering questions because there was a lot that was discussed today that I think are really important topics as we think about scaling
I just
AI.
paste it in the chat.
Yes, yep, you can send it to me or you can just pop it into the chat. Perfect. Okay.
Let me know if that worked.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it into the main chat. Yeah, so please uh click on that link as well to fill out the survey. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop into the chat, drop them into the QA as we spend the last 10 minutes together. Yes, the recording will be available for everyone, and we with the slides and a full write up. So if you're registered, you're on this webinar, you will definitely get that as well. And then we will send a recap email. So, all right, perfect. Okay. So yeah, we still have about good 7 to 10 minutes. So Meenakshi, if you want to talk about anything specific, or I can continue asking a few more questions, we can continue to use the next 5 minutes before we close out.
You can continue because I'm here to answer any questions anybody has.
Okay. All right. So we have one question. So thanks for this presentation and appreciate sharing your expertise. How are you balancing technical literacy when using familiar language? Are you concerned that with answering a shared, that ensuring a shared understanding of AI, or is that secondary to your sequence or approach? Um, can you see that question, Meenakshi?
Let me see. I can't see that question.
Okay, let me drop it in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop it in the chat. It's a great question from Audrey.
Okay. Audrey, do you mind telling me like where are like identifying who you are so that way I can, you know, answer the question more specifically. So if you are higher education, then see, like in New York University, we are over a dozen schools. Good. And then we have centers and institutes, and we have at least 10 central administrative units. We are in like, two campuses in New York City itself, Manhattan, Brooklyn. Then we have campuses in Shanghai, in Abu Dhabi. And then we have over 10 global study away sites. Good. So when you are talking to several audience members, through this very diverse and a very global institution, you need to make sure that when you talk, everyone is understanding the same thing. So I'll tell you one little witty thing. When I was growing up, and still my grandma is my ultimate person, mentor, friend, like taking caregiver and everything else. So when I was like, I think about 3 years old, she told me the story of four blind men touching an elephant and describing the elephant. So if I am touching the tail, I think it's a rope. If I touch the legs, I think it's a pillar of a temple. If I, touch something else, I find, the body, I feel like, oh God, this is very massive. Good. Until the four blind men actually compare their notes and decide what is it they are actually touching, you will never get the full picture of the elephant. Good. So this is very similar. So when you have concepts, if you do not simplify them and you have those preliminary conversations, people are going to just run away. I'll tell you, I have had that experience. Oh, she's a techie geek. She works in the weeds. People will run away from you. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have a very good understanding of what you want to talk about, and then you translate it into very simple language. So it doesn't matter which campus, doesn't matter who, doesn't matter where, everybody is understanding it similar. So having a student program actually gives me that advantage, because any given point of time I have at least 5 to 10 students working with me, different language coming from different parts of the world. So when I run something by them, it gives me that understanding. Am I making myself understand very well? you know
Yeah, that's a great answer. We have one more question that popped up. Most student employment opportunities involve providing services to other students. My institution is carefully wading into the use of AI and being careful not to have sensitive or personal data uploaded. I simply do not see it granting access to students. How is your institution handling this?
Good point. So I am very, very thankful. Like we have a very effective CISO. We have a very effective chief data officer. Good. And we have very effective other Cs. So what I do is whenever I need to do something, I always go and check with them. Good. They tell me all the policies, all the procedures, what I should do, what I shouldn't do, and I bring it into my program. So when a student starts first, obviously they are not going to get your very precious jewels, no? They are going to work with fake synthetic data. Good. So we first make sure the capstoners are only using synthetic data. Good. Even the student, workers are using synthetic data. But when we come to that next level, our new alumni, that means they have passed through all this. They have gone through multiple trainings, multiple why this, why that, what not, why this way, why that way. Only then they get access to information that we get approval to get access for our new alumni and so on. So in your case, what you need to do is you need to create these very useful partnerships with your Cs. Because once you have those partnerships and you understand what they say you should do and what they say you shouldn't do, that's when you do the pieces. So our students, our new alumni and so on, they always have terms and conditions that they need to conform to before they work in our program.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great point because handling data, especially students working with other students or students working with student data is always a concern. So that's a great approach to, talking to the chief data officer or the CISO, et cetera, because we want to make sure that that's being handled. So yeah, I think that's a great place to end. And actually, wow, this has been an incredible conversation on how we think about incorporating all these tools into campus jobs. And I think it's a topic that we're not talking enough about. So I'm sure you've sparked a lot of interest and a lot of curiosity amongst our attendees. And that's why we do these webinars, is to bring in high level qualified professionals like yourself that are able to really talk about these topics and to share the knowledge and to share the successes. So I'm really thankful and grateful that you joined us today. And please catch us on the next one. You might see Meenakshi again. And thank you all so much for spending an hour with us. And we will make sure that you get all the recordings, the presentations, the links. And so, yes, please, please, please stay in touch. Follow WriteSea on LinkedIn, join our newsletter. And thank you so much for being here. Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
Brandon, for this opportunity. And thank you, Takira, for helping me go through all the steps. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Excellent. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.